بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters, and welcome to Bayan Live. I'm your host Abu Abdurrahman, and I'm very pleased to be joined by my dear beloved brother Sheikh Jalal Chami. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Once again, it's excellent to have you with us. How have your days been since the last time we were with you?
Alhamdulillah, still wallah, surprisingly busy, alhamdulillah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless our time and bless our efforts.
Ameen.
And make all our time count in our scale of goodness and not count against us.
Ameen, ameen. Now we are live on Facebook. Welcome to all our brothers and sisters watching on Facebook and on Albayan radio apps and Wi-Fi radios. If you'd like to contribute, ask a question for the Sheikh, please feel free to leave it on our Facebook page there, Albayan Radio. Now our topic today is maintaining a healthy marriage. Now dear Sheikh, I've read and I've heard that since the social restrictions because of COVID-19, the C word, that we don't like to mention all the time because I'm sure it's very important, as we all know, but we just like to give our listeners a bit of time away from it. It's mentioned, or I've heard that divorce rates, due to the married couples being in each other's faces more and around and not going and coming, is on the increase. What do you think about something like this?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah to send His peace and blessings upon His final messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I've probably heard the same thing as you. There was reports that since China was the first country to experience, especially in Wuhan, there was reports, Allahu alam to their authenticity, right, that after the lockdown was lifted in Wuhan, that there was a record number of people applying for divorce in that area. And even in the beginning of what we're experiencing here in Australia, immediately people started to say, even there was a lot of memes and jokes. Even the government took preparations and had an expectation of high number of domestic violence and things like that. Now, you ask me, what's the reality of that? What are the stats? Allahu alam, I can't tell you. But in any case, as a Muslim, we should always be positive. We shouldn't be negative. Why should we expect the worst from this lockdown?
100%.
Why shouldn't we have hope in that the lockdown will actually be a positive experience for us as individuals, for our families, for our children, for our marriage life? So many things in Islam, so many of the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ encourage us to do away with negative thoughts and expectations and to actually encourage al-fa'al, hopefulness, positive thinking. To be optimistic. Because when you already set your mind to be negative, you've set yourself to fail.
Yes. Okay.
And unfortunately, this is not only in the relationship between husband and wife. People paint the relationship between husband and wife as being, like this battle all the time. The wife's like this, the husband's like this, and sometimes people actually buy into it, and they sort of justify for themselves bad actions because this is expected. This also translates in other relationships. For example, the relationship between the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law.
Yes.
If I just say those two words together, what are the images that come into your mind? What comes into your mind is war, pretty much,
Battle.
the mother-in-law from hell and I don't know what. Why do we buy into this concept? Why don't we say, no, I want to have a good relationship with my mother-in-law. If you're a mother-in-law, I want to have a good relationship with my daughter-in-law. And many people do. That's the thing. That these concepts that people have set up, majority of the time, they're false. Okay? Husband and wives generally have, if we're going to take statistics, most husband and wives actually are happy together. Most mother-in-laws and daughter-in-laws are happy together. And let's say, for argument's sake, the majority aren't. Why don't we be of those few that do have a positive relationship?
Yes.
Why should we have a goal to be of the failures? Why don't we have a goal to be of the positives? A lot of youth as well, this as well translated in other things. A lot of youth, they sort of fall into sins and temptations. Why? Because that's expected. They muck up and they have bad character. Why? Because that's what youth do. No, it's not what they do. Let us say even the majority do. I don't want to be part of that majority. I want to be outstanding. I want to be special. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned in the hadith of the 7 types of people that will be shaded on the day of judgment, on the day when there is no shade except for his shade, is a youth who spent his youth, grew up in the worship of Allah. Why don't we make it our goal to be not of the normal ones, but of those unique ones? The Prophet ﷺ, he said, عَجِبَ رَبُّنَا لِشَابٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ صَبْوَةٍ, that our Lord is amazed at a youth who does not slip up, doesn't have a trip. You know, لِكُلِّ جَوَادٍ كَبْوَةٍ, as the is mentioned, that every riding horse, every good horse, racing horse, one day, sooner or another, it's gonna have a slip up. It's gonna trip one day. All right, everyone trips up, right? But why don't I be of those people, of those youth? Even though the majority slip up, the majority of I don't want to be like that. I don't want to justify it to myself. I don't want to allow it for myself. I want to try to avoid that as much as I can. Allah is amazed at such youth. This is who we should be, whether it's in our youth, whether it's in our relationships with our parents, with our in-laws, whether it's our relationship with our spouses. We should have a positive outlook. We should try to not fall for this picture that people paint, even if it's the majority. Even if it's the majority. I don't want to be part of that majority. I want to be part of that exemplary model. Yes. And this is the dua of the believers when they say رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. Oh Allah, grant us from your mercy, bestow upon us from our wives and our offspring that which brings pleasure to the eyes, and make us leaders of the pious. Not only make us pious, make us the leader of the pious. Make us the example and the role model that other pious people look up to us. Not the ignorant people look up to us. The pious people look up to us. This is our goal, that every believer should have that as their goal. To be an example and a role model, the best. Not just, a lot of people, they say, I just want to get by. I just want to be 50-50. I just want to be a regular Muslim. That shouldn't be your goal. Your goal is to be the perfect Muslim, the best Muslim, the example. You want to show other people the way that you can be a good Muslim, that you can have a healthy relationship, that you can have a loving relationship. It's not a fairy tale. When we see the relationship of the Prophet ﷺ, the relationship of the Sahaba, the relationship of many of the Salaf, of many of the righteous of this Ummah, we think that this is like a fairy tale. It's not a fairy tale. It's a reality. But we have to make that reality, seeking help in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as always. Imagine Imam Ahmed. I'm not going to say the Prophet. Then you'll say, oh, he's a Prophet. I'm not going to say the Sahaba. Then you say he's Sahaba. Imam Ahmed, radiyallahu anhu wa rahimah, he said, I was married to my wife Abdullah. I think he said for 40 years, he never disputed with her.
Oh my God.
Never had one argument. Wallahi, I heard this when I was young, and I was amazed by this statement. I tried as much as I can to make that a goal in my life, that when I get married, I never want to have an argument with my wife.
That's excellent, because
I never want to dispute with my wife. I never want to go to bed, having upsets and differences and so on, and it is normal part of life. Even happened with the Prophet ﷺ, even happened with the best of. This is human nature. But the issue is that how do we remedy it? How do we remedy it? How do we fix it? How do we carry it on? Don't let it carry on more than a night. Settle, as the Prophet ﷺ, he said, if you dispute with your spouse, then make sure you do not spend the night until you put your hand in her hand and she puts her hand in your hand and say, forgive me.
Allahu Akbar.
This isn't fairy tale story. This isn't Hollywood. This is reality. But who makes it? We make it a reality. We can either decide to live like this or not. And this is something, subhanAllah, unique, I would say, about our religion. Our religion is not a fairy tale religion. Our religion is not an impractical religion. Our religion, subhanAllah, and this is something that I find that's unique in Islam, that every single person can be the best of believers. Whereas in other religions, the one who reaches the epitome, the highest of faith, is not for every person. For example, the Christians. Who is the most righteous of the Christians?
The Pope.
The priest or the Pope or the nun. Can every person be like that? What would happen if every person was a priest and every woman was a nun? There would be no more people. But Islam doesn't say that. You could be the best person and a practical person who gets married and has children and has a job and goes to work, and at the same time being the most perfect believer, the most honest. You know, if someone is honest and caring and charitable and so on, oh, you're a saint, you're a nun, you know, you're a holy person. No, for a Muslim, every person is a saint. Every believer should be a saint, if we're going to use that term, yani a wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a perfect believer. Because in reality, they justify themselves failing. I can be a sinner, I can be unkind, I can be unjust. Why? I'm not a priest, I'm not a nun, I'm not a saint. But in Islam, you have no justification for failing. Every believer should be a perfect believer. وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. I'm the number one Muslim. I have to show that I'm the number one Muslim. إِمَامًا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. So in our marriage life, we should be the role model of how a Muslim couple should be, of how a Muslim family should be. Of course, we're going to fail. We're going to make mistakes, but that isn't a shame, because that's human nature. What is a shame is that when we accept wrong and we continue with it. It is an honor for a person who makes a mistake to admit their mistake and rectify their mistake. That is not a shame, that's actually an honor. Right? So we have to try our best. And when we fail, then we stand up, we dust ourselves off, and we continue moving forward.
So aim high, be optimistic, make
Definitely.
a mistake,
don't
repent,
lend
fraud,
any ear.
continue.
Don't lend any ear to the negative examples and to the negative expectations out there.
So we are, we may be restricted physically, but let's use it as an opportunity to strengthen our relationship, not weaken it or go in being negative, as we're hearing a lot of people saying that. I don't know if you've seen the funny meme since you mentioned it, that sisters, treat your husbands properly because Islam has ordered you to be merciful to your prisoners.
Yeah,
have you seen that one?
I haven't seen that one.
It's going around, but stuff like that. Since now the husband is a prisoner, he cannot go or come, which is not really true in the complete sense. It's not full lockdown, but they're at home more than normal. And this is the main thing that I hear, that I can't stay home. I can't.
This is all negative. There was a lot of memes about homeschooling your children and things like that. We're forgetting that this is the asl. This is the essence. You are supposed to be the primary educator of your children, not the school.
Yes. Before
there was no schools. Who used to teach the children? The family. The parents. You are the educator of your children. This is a wake-up call. It's not the teacher's job to teach your children. It's not the school's job to teach your children. You are responsible to teach your children. This is a wake-up call to the husbands. Your normal place is the house. You only go to work when you have to. Your normal place is the house. Right?
So now let's
yeah, and there are a lot of hadith about that.
Yes.
To stay in your house. This is a normal. We're not talking about, the current situation.
Especially
normally, stay in your house.
Especially when the fitna is widespread.
The only two places the believers should be, as mentioned in the hadith, what's mentioned in the hadith, in the masjid or in your home. And obviously work for necessity, but other than that, your home, the person should be at home. It's like our children are enemies, our wives and our husbands are enemies. Why? Yeah, and it's like people are running away from their responsibilities. They're running away from their responsibilities to educate and nurture their children. They're running away from the responsibilities to be around their families. And this is one of the main points that I wanted to focus on. For my message to the husbands, my message to the fathers, that this is your responsibility. Your family, Allah said, as the Messenger ﷺ said, everyone is a shepherd, and every shepherd is asked about his flock. And the man is the shepherd of his flock. And the woman is the shepherd of her flock, of her children, of her everyone's relative responsibility in life, in the house, in the home, in whatever you may say.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh, for that beautiful opening. Okay, let's steer this conversation in another direction, maintaining a healthy marriage. I want a healthy, happy, productive marriage. Where do I start? We're married, we're in the house. Who should we look up to? Who should we base our marriage around? The male should be like who? The female should be like who? The marriage should base their marriage upon what? If you know what
So definitely the greatest example, that we can look up to is the example of our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who Allah sent him to us in this world to be a role model for us.
Yes.
And as I mentioned earlier, this isn't a fairy tale role model.
It's practical.
It's a practical role model. He's a real life. This is why Allah made the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam a human, not an angel. So no one can say, I don't know what to do. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to sleep and he used to pray at night. He used to sleep and he used to wake. He used to fast and he used to break his fast. He used to get married. He had desires like and temptations like any human being. He used to eat and he used to drink and he used to go to the market and he used to trade. He had friends, had responsibilities to his community like any human being. And the Prophet ﷺ was in perfect balance. So the Prophet ﷺ is an example to us. And the wives of the Prophet ﷺ are as well the best example, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had chosen them to be wives of the Messenger ﷺ, and for a noble reason. What I wanted to speak about was, I want to break it up into three things. First of all, even though I don't want to speak about spending time at home generally, I want to focus on the relationship between the husband and the wife, but you can't escape what affects that relationship of the children.
Yes.
Okay? Because isolating and neutralizing, if I want to say, neutralizing
how do you do that?
The issue of the children will free up, the arena for nurturing the relationship between the husband and wife. Okay, so if we look at, I'm not gonna, who am I to be a role model and an example, because I have so many failures. I'm not, we are all in need of following the example of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I won't say, because I got a bit worried about having this program, how to maintain a healthy relationship in the current situation with Sheikh Jalal. It's like he's got all the answers. I'm going to tell you what I do with my wife and what my wife does with me, because I have a lot of failures. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to conceal our faults, and I ask Allah to bless my wife to conceal my faults
we all do, but we're here to give advice to the best of our ability.
Yeah. So wallahi, the best example is that of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. First of all, when it comes to the children, I'll try to run through these quickly so that we don't
before you continue, we've discussed in the last 2-3 weeks about lockdown and education for children and what we should do with the children, and that's all being done. It's more to do with the actual marriage.
Yeah. So first of all, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would not shy from playing with the children. Right, the Prophet ﷺ used to engage with the children, as was asked, how was the Messenger ﷺ at home? The wives of the Prophet ﷺ said he was like any man. He would sit with his family and joke and play and so on. Sit with your children, play games with them, talk with them, tickle them, whatever. Make them happy for you to be around. They can't wait for you to be home. Especially the fathers, because the mum is boring, because they see mum all the time. Dad is the special one. There's so many, like you see, videos on YouTube and Facebook and so on. When dad comes home, the kid just hears the car pull up in the driveway. They run to the door, daddy. They don't do that so much with mum. The children react differently with their fathers. I'm going to try to be balanced, speaking about the father and mother, but just generally.
And sisters, he's not saying he's all boring. He's just giving an example.
Well, this is something naturally. If I spend more than 2 hours with you, Abu Abdurrahman, or you spend more than 2 hours with me, our relationship might be a bit different. Yeah. This is human nature, subhanallah. But anyway, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to engage with the children, play with the children. Also, he used to pray with the children. Imagine that he would pray and he would be holding the child, because sometimes the children are unsettled, Right?
As they say, a happy home is a home that prays together.
Yeah. So whether praying in Jama'ah with the entire family, or sometimes even praying by yourself, So for example, holding, as the Prophet ﷺ would hold Umama, the daughter of Zainab, radiallahu anha, hold her during the prayer, even whether the mother is praying also with the father, or she's busy, she's already prayed, or she's going to pray later, or you're praying sunnah prayers or whatever, to hold the children, and even the children, especially when they're younger in age, they climb on you when they're praying, and use you as as a horsey and things like that, as Al-Hasan and Hussein would climb on the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As well, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he taught us to eat with the children, eat with the family. Sometimes everyone's eating at separate times in separate places. I can't deal with the clatter of the plates, and it's very, very, I have to say, annoying eating with children. You lose your appetite. It's a good way to lose weight, actually.
Yes, maybe.
Because you have about three.
It's a good tip.
You manage to put about 3 spoonfuls, and you're catching this one, and you're blowing this one needs to go to the toilet.
How about our next episode is losing weight with Sheikh Jalal al-Shami? What do you think next week?
just all right, so eat together as the Messenger sallallahu used to eat with the children. Teach them etiquettes in eating. Eat from what's in front of you. Say Bismillah. Eat with the right hand, and so on. Okay, the Prophet ﷺ would also educate the children. Okay, so especially now with the children doing their schoolwork at home, that it's important for the parents, especially the fathers, to get involved in educating the children. As I mentioned earlier, that you are the primary educator of your child, not the school, not the teacher. Right, so sit down, engage with them, help them go through their work and so on. So that's one issue with the children. I don't want to delve on too much longer with that, inshallah. But that's pretty much when it comes to the children as well. Lead them in prayer, pray in congregation, pray together at home, and so on. Now, when it comes to the second point that I want to go through quickly was in the home generally. Okay, that it's important, especially for the husbands or the fathers, to help in the home. As the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was reported that sometimes he would sweep the floor, sometimes he would mend his shoes, he would help around the house. Okay, a lot of people, they complain, the table is messy, the toys are on the floor, whatever. All right, we can say that this is the responsibility of the wife to take care of the house. That's fine. Okay, but if you have free time, you are free enough to complain about the problem, that means you're free enough to help
do something about it.
To do something about it. Okay, if you're too busy to deal with it, then go deal with what you're doing with.
Now, right? I've noticed with this masala in particular, without delving too deeply into it, it comes back a lot to culture. If someone gets married, he's from a certain background, he's used to the father being the breadwinner, as they say, going to work, coming back, doing the work in the yard, outside, for example, and the wife inside, and doesn't cross paths. But there's nothing wrong, even if you have that background culturally, as you mentioned, what the Prophet ﷺ used to do, he used to be active in the house. There's nothing wrong with us following the way of the Prophet ﷺ and actually taking an active role in one's household, whether it be sweeping the floor, helping out in the kitchen.
If there's something that's missing and it's annoying you, don't complain about it. Do something about it. If you're too busy to do it, you've got more important things to do, then go and do that. Leave it. You know what I mean? So, but just generally helping in the house. Another thing, the Prophet ﷺ, as is mentioned, كَانَ يَخْدِمُ نَفْسَهُ. He used to serve himself. He didn't used to bother people. Bring me a cup of water. Bring a cup of coffee. Bring me my shoes. He didn't used to bother anyone. And this is something that we'll see consistent. If you're not going to be helpful, then don't be a pain. As we'll see this as well. Another thing that we can do that will help maintain the relationship and not cause that friction, okay, is catch up. Don't get in the face of your spouse. All right, you don't have anything to do. Don't complain about what your husband isn't doing. The husband, don't complain about what your wife isn't doing. You busy yourself with things that you need to do. If you don't have anything, maybe catch up on delayed chores. There's always that project that you've always been delaying. That garden that needs to be kept. The broken, thingamajig, whatever that's sitting in the garage or whatever, that you get around. Something not something that is useful, but it's not urgent, so you've just been delaying it. Catch up on delayed chores, or organize that door, that squeaky door that, if you can't fix it, then organize for it to be fixed. The Prophet ﷺ, he said is mentioned in one of the hadith, to give in charity. Give in charity. Charity isn't only with money. Charity is with your help. Charity is with your character. Charity. And one of the companions said, how about if I have nothing to give? He said, then go and help someone who's in need. He said, how about if I can't help? How about if there's no one to help? He said, then help someone who's unable to do something. For example, let's say that someone has a squeaky door. He's not a perfect carpenter. You have more skills. Go and help someone. And tu'ina akhraq. Al-akhraq is someone who's not proficient at his job. Help someone who's not proficient so that you could, you can help them. Or let's say, for example, there is someone who's proficient. Let's say you have a friend who's a carpenter or something like that. You go and help him. That way you will learn a skill.
Yes.
Okay. Then if I can't do that, the Prophet ﷺ said in the end, kuffa adhak. Withhold your harm. Like if you can't help, if you can't do something, you can't help, right? You can't assist in any way, then at least withhold your harm. So around the home, if you can do something, do it. If you can help in doing something, maybe there's some things I'm not good at, but I can help my wife, for example. I don't know where everything goes in the kitchen, for example. I don't know where everything goes. She arranges the clothes of the children a certain way. I can help her do it. Tell me where this goes and I'll do it. Tell me where this, Sometimes you even get the children. Some of the children know where the things are, right? And this is also something very important about getting, this is a prime time as well to get the children to help. Because it teaches them a lot of skills. Get them to help. As the Messenger ﷺ, there are examples of when he would send Anas on errands, and go and deliver this message or go to this person. And sometimes the children, they're going to get it wrong. Don't get angry with the children. Be directive in your instruction. Not, children are children at the end of the day. People, if adults have deficiencies, then how about children? You have to be very merciful in treating their children. And children, they love to help.
So be directive, not destructive.
Yes. Or be constructive, not destructive.
Yes.
All right. So, like you find children, like for example, I tell my children, go and pack that. We have a small sort of spare room. Okay, it's not very big. It's just this extra room that we have in the house that we're renting. And so we've made that the toy room. And it's always messy. Go and fix it, go and fix it. Go and fix it, go and fix it. They don't fix it. They sit there for an hour and they don't fix it. So sometimes you sitting there and you start to pack the toys. All of a sudden, the whole family is in the room packing the toys, and it's spick and span in 5 minutes.
It's a universal problem amongst kids today.
Right?
That toy room issue.
But subhanAllah, I helped them pack the toy room yesterday. Today I told them to pack it. They packed it up by themselves.
Yeah.
Right? So they need that encouragement sometimes. Okay. So we're getting back to the issue of, if you can't do something, if you can't help, then at least withhold your harm. Okay. If you can't, be constructive, you can't solve the problem, then don't create problems. Don't create a mess. Don't create problems. Okay. Also, we learn from the Prophet ﷺ is not to complain and not to criticize. Don't complain and don't criticize. The Prophet ﷺ, he came in, as we know the hadith, he asked his wives, do you have any food today? She said, we don't have any food. Okay. The Prophet ﷺ said, why haven't you got any food? Why didn't you tell me that we don't have any food? I would have got some food. He didn't complain. All right. He went to one house to the other, and subhanAllah, they didn't have any food. It's not that his wife was sleeping in half the day and she didn't cook. They didn't have food. Radiyallahu anhum. Right. And so the Prophet ﷺ didn't get upset, didn't complain. He just said, I'm fasting today. Okay. Also, the Prophet ﷺ didn't criticize. As narrated, the Prophet ﷺ ما عاب طعام قط. He never ever complained about the taste of food. إن أعجبه أكل وإن لم يعجبه تركه. If he enjoyed the food, he would eat it. If he did not enjoy the food, he would leave it.
We've all become food critics today. Let's be frank.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. So that's how. Don't criticize food. Don't criticize housework. Why would the Prophet ﷺ be sweeping the floor? Because it hasn't been swept. He didn't say, look at this floor, it hasn't been swept. Don't criticize. Don't complain. If you can't help, don't. What's the use of complaining, right? So you find this the Prophet ﷺ was when it came to worldly issues. All right. But when it comes to issues of religion, then we have a responsibility to advise and to bring it to their attention and so on. Okay, so when it comes to housework and food, don't let this be a major problem. Allahumma la taj'al ad-dunya akbara hammina wa la mablagha ilmina. It's all dunya. Who cares about the house? Who cares about the food? Obviously there is, we have to take care of our house. It's not an excuse for, for us to be lazy and dirty and so on. We have to do our best, but there is going to be deficiency. And there is deficiency in every human being. It's easy for us, for example, for the husband to criticize the deficiency in our wives, but how many deficiencies do we have? 100%. It may not be in the same thing, but maybe in other things. So we have to be very careful of what we say to the others.
Before you continue, Sheikh Jalal, Jazakallah khair, we'd like to remind our listeners and those watching on Facebook, you can leave a message or a question or some feedback on our Facebook there, and inshallah we'll mention it, or any question you have for Sheikh Jalal, please leave it there on our Facebook stream there on Albayan Radio. Also, if you would like to call in, you can. We don't mention the number much, but you can call in on 9740-6160. If you are out of Sydney, add the area code 02, then 9740-6160, and inshallah we'll take your call with any question or feedback or any suggestions you may have for us. Barakallah fikum. Tafadhal, Sheikh.
Now we're getting up to our third and our main point.
Yes.
Which was the direct relationship. Because what I said, I want to neutralize the external problems in the house. The children, the household chores. Now we're talking about the relationship, direct relationship between the husband and wife. Okay. What do we learn from our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam? That, food, food brings people together. And the Prophet ﷺ taught us to eat together, and even specifically to eat from one plate. As is narrated from the hadith about أكثر الطعام بركة ما تكاثرت عليه الأيادي. The food that has most barakah is when more hands reach into the plate. So whether that's on a family level with people in the family, or you have guests or whatever, try to eat from one plate, or at least from the perspective of husband and wife, eat from the one plate. Also drink from the same cup. As our Messenger ﷺ, he would offer a drink, and as well this shows us another etiquette, that when you are serving, serve the other. Don't eat before the other. So the Prophet ﷺ, he served Aisha radiallahu anha some milk or yogurt or whatever drink they would drink, and then after she drank, he would take the cup and he asked her, from which side of the cup did you drink? And he would put his mouth on where she drank from. It's these very subtle touches, very, and it's almost embarrassing how cute and romantic it is. But as I said, this isn't fantasy, this is reality. And the thing is that winning the heart of your spouse, whether husband or wife, doesn't require you to jump over the moon. It's the small things that count. It's the small thoughts, to be considerate and thoughtful and respectful of the other person. Eat from the same plate, drink from the drink from the same cup. Have that time alone. You've put the kids to sleep. Have that time alone. For example, in the morning.
Can we say be romantic, as they say today?
Definitely. This is I'm getting to that point, inshallah.
Sorry for what?
All right. So have that. Enjoy that drink together that you enjoy, whether it's a tea or whether it's a milk or whether it's coffee. There's decaffeinated options. If it's late at night, you don't want to
kombucha.
Whatever you enjoy together, you may enjoy different things. You may enjoy some snacks. Whatever it is, spend that time together. Eat together. Spend that time together. Another thing is the importance of playing together. As the Messenger ﷺ, he used to race Aisha radiallahu anha from time to time. The first time they had a race, Aisha outran the Prophet ﷺ. I don't know if it was on purpose, or I think Allahu alam, he allowed her to outpace him on the first occasion. On the second occasion, Aisha says, I had put on a little bit more weight and he outran me. And then jokingly he said, هذه بتلك. that was for that. You won the first time, I won this time. So it's about, being playful and enjoying. So nowadays, I don't know, if you want to run with your spouse, exercise is allowed in this situation. Utilize that freedom. Even though we like to think of the negatives, of all our freedom of movement that has been restricted, but there is other avenues of freedom of movement. If you have a backyard, enjoy your backyard, especially if the weather is a bit topsy-turvy. Sometimes it's raining and cold, and sometimes it's sunny, sometimes it's windy.
It's quite windy today.
It's quite windy, yeah. So sometimes it's a very narrow sort of window. Utilize that time outside if you have a backyard, if you have a balcony, or go for a walk around the park if you want to. If now even the parks are not very inhabited, you want to have a race. If it's appropriate, why not? That's far away from people looking on. Why not? Or at least go for a walk together. Hold hands. It's not haram to hold hands. With your spouse, it's as long as it's all within, decency,
Yes.
So our Prophet ﷺ, taught us, about, spending that time, physical activity, play, so we can walk in the park, we can play games, as sometimes now you're think of things to do with the children, play games with the children, and then, have turns with each child, and then have turns with each other. Show your children, sometimes like we're teaching the children games that we used to play with when we were young. Today we were playing, for example, hangman, right? The children are not familiar with it. So me and my mother were playing together and teaching the children, then playing with the children and so on. And it was actually enjoyable to play together. You know what I mean? Because we haven't played these type of games, Snap or whatever. And it's actually, card games or whatever, that these things that, we haven't really played them since we were children. And now with our children, we're reconnecting with these things. Or maybe if your children are older, I want to try to make this, not only, we have quite young children, but like for people who may not have children at the moment, or maybe who have adult children, or their children have, use that time, play these, simple games, and you'd be amazed at how entertaining they are, enjoyable they are. You have a laugh together, and this is what these are the things that build love together as well. Learn together. Why not sit down, for example, listen to Albayan radio, listen to lectures together. If there's a particular lecture that you want to that is not available at the moment on YouTube or whatever.
Everything's online today as well, with all these online lessons and streams. So make the most of it.
Yeah, whether it's a lecture or whether an Islamic lecture, or documentaries that have beneficial knowledge, avoid the things that have no benefit to you in your religious life or in your worldly life.
And the Prophet ﷺ used to make dua against that.
No. So the Prophet ﷺ said, "Oh Allah, I ask you for beneficial knowledge, and I seek refuge from knowledge that has no benefit." So there are a lot of things that you can enjoy your time. Sometimes you just want to watch something, watch something beneficial. There's plenty of documentaries, whether in history or nature documentaries, that just make you amazed or give you some insight to the world around you. Discuss together what you're watching, what you've learned. Read a book together, or teach each other. If the husband knows more than the wife in a certain aspect, why doesn't he teach his wife? Or the wife may know more than the husband in a certain aspect, whether in religious knowledge or worldly knowledge. Learn from each other. Another thing would be to cook together, help each other in the kitchen, either as a family with the children, or even alone.
Sheikh Jalal, are you a bit of a cook? Just a private question here.
I do like to think so. I have to say that, because I did live alone as a student.
Medina, yes, that's right.
And even growing up, I have like sort of a liking to cook. So I used to cook for the brothers, the Australian students, and they used to. My home was the meeting the meeting room for the brothers and students that lived in the dorm.
What's your go-to dish?
Well, I have to. I don't know if I can mention, but Sheikh Kamal and his family, and Sheikh Muhammad Da'ar and his family were a big help to me. They shared a lot of good recipes with me. I think Sheikh Muhammad Da'ar's family gave me the recipe for butter chicken.
Yes.
And I did make that.
It's funny you mentioned that without drifting off too much. Last time I visited Medina, they were both there, Sheikh Kamal and Sheikh Muhammad, and I ate at both their houses, and it was quite
mashallah,
enjoyable.
Both their families, mashallah, are very good.
Allah bless them.
Very good cooks. So I did take some recipes off them in making some dishes.
Inshallah, they'll both be with us in the upcoming week. Inshallah,
practice on the on my fellow students. You know, stir fry and fried rice and the things that I like to eat. I shared them.
I thought you were going to tell me 2-minute noodles or stuff like that. Yes, that's pretty good.
I made kapsa a few times. In big pots, and I shared it with the students, with the brothers.
I remember one of the brothers. I don't remember which brother exactly. He was trying to make lubia. He missed lubia. Green beans and meat and rice. So he was trying to make it. I don't think he succeeded. But
the funny thing is people try to make a dish and they miss the most important ingredient in the dish.
What's that?
Like in whatever dish it is.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
You know, but it's sometimes a person just overlooks sometimes those things. And
so cook for each other or cook together. Is a tip.
Definitely, and why not have a go? The other thing is. When we're talking about cooking, there could be problems. Like honestly, like what we're speaking about, that sometimes people cook and they make mistakes in the cooking, right? Sometimes they overlook a basic ingredient. It's like making tabbouleh and missing the burghul. What's tabbouleh without burghul? It's salad. Right? It's not tabbouleh, but sometimes this happens, and this happened even in the time of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When one of the wives of the Prophet sallallahu, she was asked about Aisha. How was Aisha? She said she was exemplary. She was perfect. She was beautiful in everything, except that sometimes she would make the dough and she would fall asleep, and the rat would eat the dough. Radiallahu anha. No one is perfect in every way. Everyone has a deficiency. The perfection is for Allah, who is perfect in every way. Every person has a deficiency. Yes. And so there was no narration. The Prophet ﷺ got angry with Khadija, with Aisha radiallahu anha, because she fell asleep, and because what they used to make the dough. And by the way, it took a lot of effort to make the dough. They didn't just buy a packet of flour. They had to grind it themselves and sift it and so on, and then knead the dough, and then they would leave it to rest. And as she was leaving it to rest, waiting it to rest, she would, fall asleep, and the rat would come and eat the dough. Radiallahu anhu, and then all of that hard work for nothing. And then when the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's nothing to serve for him or for herself. So, and then she would, rely on one of her co-wives or neighbors or whatever to share with some of her food. But the thing is that, we have to be merciful to each other. If the cooking isn't right, if there's a mistake, if there's burning, she left the food on the stove for too long.
I think it's very important then. We all may become, we may all fall into this. We have to learn to overlook a lot.
Definitely.
For both parties.
And this is something that our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that لا يفرق مؤمن مؤمنة إن عجب منها خصلة إن كره فيها خصلة رضي بها آخر. That never does a believing man depart from a believing woman, because if he hates a certain aspect of her character, he is pleased with the many other good characters that are in her. So that's something very important, to overlook the negatives in each other, to try to overcome them, to try to deal with them. Sometimes if we can't, then to overlook them and to look at the many good characters that are in our spouses. Because this is what causes, because what happens, the shaitan comes and focuses on the negative and makes us forget the positive. Whereas the believer is the opposite. The believer overlooks the negatives and concentrates on the positives. When the positives are greater than the negatives, the believer looks at that. All right. It doesn't mean that we, don't recognize the negatives. We try to address them. We try to correct them. We try to, if we can. If not, then we overlook them. As well, another thing the Prophet ﷺ would do is that he would listen to his wives. They would come and complain, tell stories, as the famous hadith of Zara. Aisha radiallahu anha tells the Messenger ﷺ about the story of 9 women who speak about their different experiences with their husbands. The Prophet ﷺ is the messenger of Allah, the leader of the Muslim community. He's got war and he's got peace and he's got problems and hypocrites and enemies and assassination attempts and so on. And he's got time to sit and listen to his wife and the stories of these 9 women who Allahu A'lam who they are. He sat and he listened and he not only he listened attentively and he commented about her stories. And he said to her at the end, I want to be like Abu Zara was to Zara, except that I will not divorce you. You know, he gave her positive response, positive sort of comments to her story, made her happy. As well, the Prophet ﷺ, would seek the advice from his wives like Salama for problems. He would empathize, and this is a very, very important point, to be empathetic towards his wife. When Aisha radiallahu anha, she complained about a headache, the Prophet ﷺ put his head on her head and he said, Wa ra'sa, no, I'm the one with the headache. Put his head on her head as if he's saying to her, I want to absorb your headache into me. I have a headache just like you. I want to feel what you feel. That's being empathetic. Not like, what's wrong with you? My mum had 10 kids and there was nothing wrong with her.
Toughen up.
No, you have to be empathetic. With physical pain, with psychological pain. The kids are driving me crazy. What's wrong? You have to be sympathetic, right? The Prophet ﷺ would enjoy a massage, and this is the ajib. If I hadn't read it in the hadith, I wouldn't have believed the Prophet ﷺ would enjoy having a massage, give each other massages. Your wife is in pain, give her a massage. Your husband's in pain, give him a massage. This is, it does wonders, for each other, and give that physical touch to each other. Reading ruqya as the Prophet ﷺ would read ruqya, and Aisha radiallahu anha would read ruqya on the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Help each other in your work. So especially now in the situation that we're in, a lot of people are working from home. So the husband may be working from home. Sometimes the wife is working from home if she has work and responsibility. So sometimes, there's that problem. So you want to make time for each other. The wife should help, if she can, help the husband complete his work. The husband should help the wife completely, so they have more time for each other. Share the time, especially when you're juggling between children as well. Share the load so that you could be able to, in the end, when you help your wife, you're helping yourself. As the dua that we mentioned earlier, رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ. When you wish for goodness for your wife, when you wish for goodness for your children, that's good for you. When they say, happy wife, happy life, or happy spouse, happy house. Because in the end, when your wife and your children are in a good state, that's going to be good for you. Good for you in the short term and in the long term. In the worldly life and in the hereafter. Okay, nearly finished, inshallah. Remind each other to do good deeds. Remind each other to pray. Remind each other to fast. Okay, especially since we're in the blessed month of Sha'ban. Remind each other to call your parents, to give charity, to check up on someone that may be in need. As well, the point that we just mentioned, avoid arguments and overlook faults. As Imam Ahmad, he said, I never had a dispute with my wife. Overlook faults that we just mentioned, that hadith. The believer doesn't dispute with his believing wife, overlooks the faults and concentrates on the good. Look at the good of each other. Be the water for the fire. Be the water for the fire, whether husband or wife. You see your wife angry, upset about something, don't be a fire, don't be a wind,
don't be petrol, gas.
Right? Don't be a fuel to the fire. Be the water for the fire. Extinguish the fire, as happened with our lady, our mother Aisha radiallahu anha. When she got angry, she got jealous one time, even though she was not rightful in it. When she was hosting guests of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sauda radiallahu anha brought over a plate. I think it was Sauda, if I'm not mistaken. She brought over a plate. Aisha radiallahu anha got so angry or jealous that she's trying to take the attention away from her and her hosting the guests of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She broke the plate of Sauda. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gathered the food of the plate and he said, غارت أمكم he didn't want to exacerbate the problem. He wanted to extinguish that fire. He didn't, he could have said, what are you embarrass me in front of the guests and so on, you break a plate, how dare you have committed injustice. He said, then you go and make her a plate and send it over to her.
Oh.
Right? So be the water for the fire. Don't exacerbate the problems. No. And likewise, so sometimes the wife is angry, calm her down, give her time, whatever will extinguish the problem, Be the water for that
a
problem.
lot of times when things like this happen, pride kicks in, and they try to, how can you say, defend themselves. Well, in reality, what should be done is, as the Prophet ﷺ done right there, extinguish the problem right there.
That's right.
And that's what we should all be trying to do with our spouse, or in any type of argument. Try to eliminate or try to stop it from growing and getting worse.
That's right. Another point is, don't get into each other's business. The husband shouldn't get involved in her cooking, in her cleaning, and so on. And likewise, the wife shouldn't get involved with the husband's business. Go and clean the garden, go and, fix the shed or whatever it is. Don't get involved too much in their business, because this sometimes creates problems. Give each other space and give each other time. Even if they need time alone, they need to have a break, take care of the kids or whatever. What's important as well is fulfill your responsibility, even if the other party fails in their responsibility. So as you said, Abdurrahman, don't do tit for tat. Don't let your pride get involved. My wife, didn't do this, so in spite of her, out of spite, then I'm not going to do it. My husband did this, so in spite, I'm going to do this. No, you do your responsibility before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if the other party does it. Of course, it's your responsibility to advise them if they're doing something wrong,
yes,
if they're failing, to advise them. But I'm not going to stop. If they do wrong, I'm not going to do wrong because of them. وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. No one will hold the burdens of the other. As long as my record is clean with Allah and I have done what I'm supposed to do, I'm not going to let someone else's bad deeds justify for me to do bad or to fail in my responsibilities. As well, and this is the point that I wanted to delay to the end, use this time, especially, all the time we should, but use this time to be romantic. Reignite your love, reinstate your love. A lot of time people reminisce on their early years of marriage, in the honeymoon period.
How it was.
Why does it have to be like that? Why can't every day be honeymoon? Why can't every time be like that? Think of the good things, because wallahi, our spouses are a blessing. Our spouses are a blessing. And those who think their spouses are not a blessing, especially a lot of older couples, my husband, he's this, or my wife is that, I can't wait until they, wallahi, I say to these people, wallahi, it doesn't matter how much you suffer from your spouse, or, suffer, of their nagging or of their whatever.
With, yeah.
Wallahi, if you lose them, you will be so remorseful. And I have seen this time and time again. Right, as the Prophet ﷺ, he said that الدنيا متاع وخير متاعها الزوجة الصالحة. This world is all possessions, and the best thing that you can possess is a righteous spouse. So don't underestimate and don't devalue this blessing that you have. Nurture it, enjoy it. Don't let every day can be, make every day your wedding night. Right, dress up for your spouse, whether husband or wife. A lot of people expect their wife to be, in top nick, right? Wearing their, their wedding dress.
Wedding dress.
I don't know if they have a wedding dress, or they can fit in their wedding dress. Or, made up and smelling nice and looking nice and hair. And how about you, my dear brother? He wants his wife to be nice and slim and,
He's in his worky.
What is it?
He's in his high visibility shirt.
His high vis, yeah. All grease and, or he's just, he's got all these body pains and muscle pains.
Was it Hassan or Ibn Abbas that used to dress up for his wife as his wife dressed up for him?
Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu.
Ibn Abbas, was it?
He would put eyeliner and make himself look nice. And they said, what is this? He said, just as I love that from my wife to beautify herself for me, I should also beautify myself to my wife. وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. They also have a right, just like you have a right towards them.
So all within the boundaries of Islam. Don't get me wrong, my dear brothers and sisters, what we're saying here, all within the boundaries of Islam.
Of course, not
beautify yourself
haram.
and everyone, when they're married for a certain period of time, if they don't know what their wife or their husband likes, then this is another issue together. They should know, yeah.
Generally, like, I don't know, if some people become complacent being at home,
yes,
always be in their top nick. have a shower, use nice shampoo, use clean clothes. Even if you're at home, dress nicely, right? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was Aisha radiallahu anha, she said the first thing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did when he came home was to use the siwak. Freshen your breath. One of the things that turns people off others is especially your spouse, because you're in close contact with them.
I remember hearing
having bad breath.
I remember hearing one of the advice of the ulama when he said something. I don't ever hear quoted the hadith, but he always said, or he said, do not let your wife or your husband see you except in the best manner.
No.
And this is something, we all may be a bit lazy or get tired, but really that's golden advice.
No.
Be in the best manner, whether it be odor, whether it be presentation, whether it be manners, whether it be whatever it may be. Be in the best shape you possibly can be. Listen, we're not going to be perfect. You're going to have your ups and downs, but try always to be in the best possible way. As you would like from your wife or from your husband, you should do the same as well. As you like to be treated, you should treat them as well.
So with your mouth, with your oral odor, oral hygiene, physical hygiene, don't be sweaty and stinky. Have a shower, your clothes, dress nicely, have fresh clothes, put on perfume. As our Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would love to put on perfume, even though he used to sweat musk. Could you imagine that? The wives of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they used to wait until he sleeps, and naturally when you sleep you sweat. They used to scrape the sweat of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and put it in a bottle because it used to smell sweeter than musk. His sweat was musk, and he used to love to put on atar.
That's right.
How about your sweat? Mashallah, your sweat.
We're not sweating musk.
We're not sweating musk.
In Jannah, inshallah, we hope to have
that. The thing is that when you are fresh and clean, it's not only for the benefit of your spouse, it's also for you. Psychologically, you feel more good about yourself. You feel more positive. You feel more energetic. A lot of the time we feel lazy, can't be bothered, I have this work to do, can't be bothered, because you're still in your pajamas.
Yes.
You're still in sleep mode. Get up, have a shower, wear nice clothes. You feel like you're in the mood to do work. You're in the mood to do something, and for you and as well for the other party. So be romantic, reignite your love, reinstate your love, rekindle those moments of the honeymoon period. Have those little lights, candles. But obviously,
we have to give a disclaimer here that we're not advertising going on honeymoons to haram places that has become very popular today.
You can't, even if you wanted to.
Yeah. This is a bit of an issue, I know. We have to disclaimer here. We don't want a headline Sheikh Jalal saying honeymoons.
Make your honeymoon in your home.
Yeah. So make it like the early years. You mean that's what you try to mean. The early days.
Put rose petals on the bed.
Rose petals.
Put chocolates. Write love letters. Write little notes. Hide them someplace.
I don't think anyone writes anymore. Just send the text.
No. Right. That's why be unique. Be special. When it has that personal touch.
I did meet a brother who used to write poetry to his wife, but that's another story.
The poetry. Allah alam, do whatever.
He was a good writer.
And that's the thing. It's about the thought. It's about the buy a gift for your spouse. Surprise. This is the thing. Sometimes, as I said, it's not it's just the thought that counts, as they say, right? The messenger, and what I'm saying is not, it's
Puts
not
some effort
me.
In other words, yeah.
It's the messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He would say to his wife, he'd speak about his love to Aisha. She would, tadallal alayh, as they say. She'd come and be cute with him and say, how much do you love me? Do you love me? There's a guy who lives down the road, right? On his driveway, I live in Condell Park, so those listeners out there might know who I'm talking about. He's got in his driveway a big sign made of metal, right? Cut into this sign is "I love you" and the name of his wife.
Come
right? It's Susie. I love you, Susie. It's like his wife is driving him crazy. Do you love me? Do you love me? So he wrote her a sign every time she drives into the car park. She sees that big sign. I love you, Susie. So don't ask me if I love you or not. I've written a sign for you.
Reinforcing it. But the Prophet ﷺ, subhanallah, he used to actually say that he used to love Aisha.
So she used to ask him. Sometimes you get annoyed. They're like, obviously I ask you. If I don't love you, I would have divorced you. Didn't I just, spend $200 at the grocery shop. Who did I buy it for? Of course I bought it for you. It's the way.
When did you go shopping last?
That's why you have to buy in bulk these days,
$200.
Yeah, but anyway, buying nappies and things like that, all adds up. Anyway,
No, I'm saying that's quite cheap.
Allahumma barik.
And now, just on that point there, the Prophet ﷺ, he was asked, I think, Amr ibn al-As, who do you love the most?
No.
And he said, Aisha. And he said, he didn't
he
hide
wasn't
it. Today,
shy
some people think it's not from rujula, from manliness, to say that you love your wife.
That's right. As I think our Sheikh Abu Ayman, he used to challenge the brothers to call their wives and say to their wives, I love you over the phone in the presence of the other brothers. And they're all getting shy, you can't, some people, they can't even talk to them. Why? Yes. Rasulullah ﷺ would openly declare his wife. Who doesn't love their wife?
Even to fellow brothers in Islam, you can, if you love them, the Prophet ﷺ instructed us to say, I love you.
And this is very important to verbalize your love, not only to show it in your action. A lot of men, they don't like to verbalize their love. They love their wives in their heart, in their actions. But as we know, the actions of Iman are three: actions of the heart, and actions of the tongue, and actions of the limb. So this love we should get, and this is as well a point that I forgot to mention, I want to mention it before I forget it, is that we should seek the pleasure of Allah in our actions towards our family and our actions towards our spouses.
This is a worship.
This is a worship. The Prophet ﷺ said, the best of you is the one who's best to his wives, and I'm the best to my wife. Right? The Prophet ﷺ, even in a person's intimate relations with their spouse is a charity, so it's a way to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in nurturing that relationship. Aisha, as I said, would be cute to the Prophet ﷺ. How much do you love me? How's your love towards me? He said, my love towards you is tight as a knot. Is as tight as a knot. And from time to time she would ask him, how's the knot going? He said, as tight as it always has been.
Now, Sheikh Jalal,
my love to you is like
I'm going to ask you this question because today it's become a norm not to say this. And when someone does say it, the wife thinks, or the other way around, the husband will think, what's going on here? There's something happening. How can we change that? Is it by just saying it more or showing that you really mean it through your actions, or... You get what I mean? Like today, if someone was to say it, comment out there, like Sheikh, our beloved Sheikh Abu Ayman, he told the brothers, Allah yahfadhu, to say it. And if someone was to call, here's the phone call, and the wife answers, and someone will say, dear beloved wife, I love you. The wife will say, what's going on here?
Look.
Generally.
Some people.
How can we change it?
Some people, I think all people love to hear nice things, even if they sort of deep down think it's ingenuous.
Sometimes I say, what's this guy want, or what does she want?
Even if you're lying, say it. Even if you're the most amazing. And sometimes you may say to your wife, you're the most beautiful woman in the whole world, and she knows that you don't think she's so beautiful, or she doubts it, whatever it is. So it may be true, but she doesn't believe it, or it may be that you're, over exaggerating the truth, as they say. Even if she doesn't believe it 100%, she loves to hear it. This is the nature of human beings, and men as well. They love to be praised. They love to be, positive talk to be directed towards them.
So say nice words to your spouse, whatever it may be.
You don't lose.
As long as it's permissible.
وَمَثَلُ كَلِمَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ كَشَجَرَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ. The good word is not lost. The good word is not lost. وَلَوْ بِكَلِمَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ.
I think mention it as well. Show affection with the words as well.
Yeah.
I think is very
important. One
of
the most important things in marriage life is how you speak to each other. Another thing, before we get to that, we're about to conclude, is make dua for each other. رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا. The first, Allah, grant for us for our wives. The first person you make dua for is your spouse. Then your children, then yourself. Your spouse, make dua for your spouse. Once Rasulullah ﷺ, he was sitting with his wife Aisha, and she said, I felt that he was in a good mood. So I said, oh Rasulullah, make dua for me. And he said, Allahumma ighfir li Aisha ma taqaddama min dhanbiha wa ma ta'akhkhara. The hadith of the messenger, oh Allah, forgive for Aisha. She was so over the moon that her head fell into his lap.
Allahu Akbar.
You know, she was so over the moon by this dua, so overtaken by this dua. Generally, dua we should make, secretly between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But sometimes it's good to let the other person hear the dua. She got so happy by that her head fell into her lap. And she's like embarrassed, overjoyed by this beautiful dua of the Messenger. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, this is the dua I make for my ummati in every salah. I make this dua for my ummah, for every one of my followers, including us. Look at the love Rasulullah ﷺ had for us, that Allah grants us forgiveness. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless and honor the status of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Amen. Sheikh Jalal, there is a narration regarding the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam going to night prayer, and Aisha asking him, where are you going? And he basically said he's going to go to night prayer, and she was said, just to add on to what you mentioned, that I love to be next to you, which shows that relationship was a beautiful relationship. She loved to be close to him. It's her husband in the end of the day, and on top of all that, he's the messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which shows us subhanallah how this beautiful relationship between the best man and one of the greatest women to set foot on this earth, radiyallahu anha wa sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
One of the things as well is as I mentioned before, every human being has weaknesses, has imperfections. Sometimes it's like a chronic imperfection, and sometimes it's a incidental imperfection. So what is important is that we understand our spouse. We know that they have a weakness. They have so to know the weakness of your spouse and not to to overlook it, to overcome it, and override. One of the most important things, if we're going to summarize the relationship between husband and wife, it's respect. It's respect. Respect in how you speak to your spouse, how the wife speaks to her husband, to speak in respect, how the husband speaks to his wife with respect, how they deal with each other. Respect the person. Respect the housework that she's doing. Respect her work with the children. It's not easy.
Be grateful,
be grateful, but it's respect at the end of the day. I mentioned the hadith of Zara, and really this is probably the mashayikh and the ulama spent hours and hours and volumes speaking about this one hadith. But I'm going to summarize it in 2 words. All right. So Zara was married to this amazing man who was very wealthy and very generous. All right, and then, after living an amazing life with him, he divorced her. But it's not the end of the story. She married another very wealthy man who was also very generous to her.
But not good as Abu Zara.
What was the difference? This is wealthy, was generous to her. He was wealthy, generous to her. What's the difference? He said, Kuli ya Zara wa miri ahlaki. He would say, the second man, he said, eat as much as you want, Zara. He's got plenty of very generous, and miri ahlaki, even take food to your family. Very generous. She said, لكن لو جمع كل ما أعطانيه ما بلغ ملء كف أبو زرع. If all that second husband gave her was not equivalent to a handful or a cup of what Abu Zara gave. So what's the difference? Abu Zara was wealthy and generous and gave her and so on. This man was also wealthy and generous. The ulama, they said there was a difference with Abu Zara, and it's in one sentence what he said. He said, وَكُنْتُ أَقُولُ فَلَا أُقَبَّحْ. كنت أقول فلا أقبح. I used to speak and I was never disparaged. I was never humiliated. Respect. Never humiliate your spouse. Never, even if she says something silly, even if your wife says something silly, something out of line, maybe to you, to your mother, to her sister, to your sister, whoever it is, don't humiliate them. Don't mock them. If she's done something wrong, advise, be constructive, point out, where she, always people take advice if it comes from a good heart, if they know that the person wishes well for that person.
Especially when it comes in a nice manner.
Right? Not when it comes sort of, because there is that nafs, that ego, that when someone comes to put you down, you immediately want to reject. You want that person to accept the advice. When it comes from a good place, when it comes from mercy, when it comes from, that they accept it. So the standout point, why even she was married, but she reminisced the good treatment of Abu Zara, and she never forgot it, right? Because he used to honor her. He never disrespected her. Respect is the essence of relationship between husband and wife, and how you speak to each other. It's unfortunate that you hear sometimes some stories, people speak in the most atrocious ways to each other.
Especially when things go
Call
sour.
each other names. Not even, but the people live like that normally. I am amazed, how do people live like that? Swearing at each other, putting each other down, calling each other names. This is not how a Muslim should live. وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا. Speak nice to people. And who's most worthy of your nice speech? Do you speak like that to your friends? Do you speak like that to your work colleagues? Do you speak like that to your clients, to your customers? You'd never speak like that.
No way.
Some people, it's normal, saying foul language, swearing, even in front of the children. A believer should never, put down his spouse. In the end, your spouse is you. For you, if your wife or your husband is this bad, I don't even want to, say these words. You're saying about you because you've accepted this person to be your, to be your spouse. If your husband's a donkey, that means you're a donkey.
Yeah,
right? Because who's the wife of the donkey?
A donkey.
A donkey. I know what the feminine version of donkey is.
I have no
that's
idea.
reality. When you humiliate your spouse, you're humiliating yourself. And when you honor your spouse, you honor yourself.
So honor your spouse. Yeah.
Honor your spouse. لا يكرمهن إلا كريم ولا يهينهن إلا لئيم. No one honors a woman except an honorable person. And this is the special responsibility of the husband. The husband has to be the one with the greater mind, let us say. Don't stoop to the low level of your spouse, whether husband or wife.
Both ways, yeah.
Husband or wife. Don't stoop to that. Be better than that. Right? And
always stick to the limits that Islam has put forth, regardless of what happens.
So always when we speak about these things, we're talking in the worldly sense. When it comes to issues of the religion has lines that we are all regulated by.
100%.
Right? And even when it comes to worldly things, there are reasonable limits as well.
Yes.
Right? Asma radiallahu anha, she divorced Zubair ibn al-Awwam. Why? Asma, the sister of Aisha radiallahu anha, Asma bint Abi Bakr, she was married to Zubair ibn al-Awwam, one of the 10 granted promise in paradise. One of the greatest women in Islam and one of the greatest men in Islam. They were married. And from that marriage came Abdullah bin Zubair.
Allahu Akbar.
Right? But they divorced. One of the men of paradise and one of the greatest women of this ummah. They divorced. Why? Not because there was something wrong with his religion, but because of his harsh treatment. He was a hard man. He was raised by Safiya, the auntie of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Tough upbringing.
That's his nature. His nature was tough. So he would make his wife work hard. Not only that, he would make his wife take care of his horse. And if you know about training a horse, the horse has to be trained daily.
And Zubair was one of the greatest horsemen in
Muslim
army.
The horse was something important for him. So he had to work. He didn't have time to take care of it. It's not that he made his wife take care of the horse and he was, lying on the couch watching TV, so to speak. They didn't have to, but, he had other work to do. So, and his horse was important for him to be maintained to a high degree. So the horse had to be trained daily. And you know what? After the horse is trained, it gets sweaty, and the sweat has to be washed off. If you leave the sweat to dry on the horse, it could cause problems. So the horse has to be washed. A coat has to be combed every day, because or else lice will go into the flesh of the horse and cause disease. A horse is a big job.
A lot of work.
And ask me, because I live in Kondo Park.
Yes, you have horses.
And I have horses going through my street every day. And I know, and subhanAllah, I say to myself, because I see the trainers taking the horses every morning, every day, from Fajr, taking the horses. They don't give up because every day you have to train the horse. And then it doesn't end there. Taking the horse, bringing him back, washing the horse, combing the horse, feeding the horse. It's a big job. She couldn't take it anymore. So she asked to be relieved of that responsibility. Right? So yes, marriage, there are religious parameters, but also there are worldly parameters that are reasonable. If even the worldly hardships in dealing with the spouse is too much to handle, then you either be patient and deal with it, or if you can't deal with it, there's the recourse of divorce, and there's no any shame in that. Just a few points, inshallah. Help by listening. The Prophet ﷺ was a beautiful listener, and encourage and support. Be a listener, not a hearer. Listener means someone who is conscious, pays attention.
Put your phone away.
Don't when you're, sometimes, for example, the wife complains about her problems, and it's like the worst thing she could have done is tell him about her problems. Then he comes and criticizes, oh, what's wrong with you, and so on. No, be a supportive listener.
Or he says, what else happened today? Yeah. Do you hear that one? What else happened today? He's basically saying next.
Yeah, next, like discounting what she said. No, and I say from the husband's perspective to the wife, and the wife from the husband as well. So take it both ways, because you might think that it's easy, but if you're in that situation, you may think that taking care of the kids is easy.
It's not.
But when you're in that situation, it's different, whether it's the kids or anything else. Or maybe it is easy. It would be easy for you, but it's difficult for her. You know what I mean? Or the other way around. It may seem easy for you, but it's difficult for him. All right? Because as I said, everyone has a weakness somewhere. Don't look down at someone's weakness, because that's not your weakness. You may have a weakness something else. So be respectful. Be empathetic. So be supportive, be encouraging. May not be a physical weakness. They may have a mental weakness. If you're not there to take care of your spouse, then who is? Another thing is fix your relationship with Allah, and Allah will fix your relationship with the people.
That's the most important thing.
Fix your relationship between you and the Creator, and Allah will rectify your relationship with the people. When we mention some of the weaknesses, for example, in Aisha radiallahu anha, in her jealousy, in breaking the plate, in her forgetting the dough. But also there are other things that go beyond the limits, and that don't require, sometimes it's easy to say overlook the faults and so on. No, sometimes as well we have to have constructive criticism, and we have to have advice. We have to put the person in their place. The jealousy, when it goes beyond the bounds, when Aisha radiallahu, she started to her jealousy in Khadija. And when the Prophet ﷺ used to praise Khadija, she said, what do you want with that old hag? Allah has blessed you with someone better. The Prophet ﷺ came down on her like a ton of bricks. He said, no, well, by Allah has not replaced me with someone better. For she took care of me, she supported me with her wealth, with herself, and she believed in me when people denied me, and she supported me when people deserted me, and Allah blessed me with children from her. Right? So again, when someone steps out of line, sometimes it's something good to be put in line. It's not something bad. It's not from hatred.
And that shows care as well for your spouse. Yeah.
Everyone needs to be put in line. Whether if the wife steps out of line, it's the husband's responsibility to put him in line. If the husband steps out of line, the wife has to advise her husband. Or even though some people are like the man is the one who's the boss. No, even men have bosses over them. Whether they're boss at work or their boss, for example, the sheikh. How many times we've been put in line from our mashayikh, our senior mashayikh? Yeah. Right? It's the issue of we appreciate that advice, and sometimes wallahi that advice is hard, but it comes from love, it comes from care. Yes. And this is a blessing, wallahi, to have someone who shows you your faults. As the Salaf that said, "Man ahda ilayya ayubi," and I thank the one who shows me my faults on a platter, as if giving me a gift. Here, these are your faults. Al-Muslim mir'atul Muslim. The Muslim is the mirror of the other Muslim.
So they would appreciate the advice, subhanAllah. No. Not be negative and lash out at it.
Yeah, and so as I said, that when we have faults, doesn't mean when we are it's constructive, not destructive. It's coming from love and care, because as Allah describes the relationship between husband and wife, hunna libasun lakum wa antum libasun lahun. You are garments for them and they are garments for you. We have to cover the shame and the weaknesses of our faults, the faults of our spouse, and vice versa. The husband covers the faults of his wife and tries to rectify them, and the wife covers the faults of her husband and tries to rectify them. By this, when there is that care and concern and mercy and respect, if we want to summarize, because I can just say, the way to have a good relationship is respect. But what does that translate to mean? What are the dimensions of that? What are the explanations of that? What's the practicality of respect? It's in all of these that we've discussed today and more. But inshallah, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those who act upon our knowledge and who make us better than what we assume of ourselves or what people assume of us, and to forgive us for our shortcomings and our faults.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Jalal, for that this inspiring message and advice. I thank you for being with us, and I thank all our viewers watching on Facebook and all our brothers and sisters listening on Albayan Radio, whether through the apps or the Wi-Fi device. Please get your Wi-Fi device. They are available at Dar es Salaam Islamic Bookstore in Lakemba, and also Bukhari House Islamic Bookstore in Auburn. Please purchase it. It's an ideal gift as well, and spread the knowledge and benefit bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Once more, I thank Jazakallah khair. I thank Sheikh Jalal, Jazakallah khair, and all our brothers and sisters for tuning in. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Albayan Radio, the voice of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah.